rain was really Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are officially back here at the race shop in Southern Oregon, and welcome back to today's show. Great to be talking to you guys. We just did a ton of racing on the channel. 8 races in 11 days, and capped it off with the Dirt Cup. Of course, everything's now caught up. That was about, just over a week ago, and realistically just had maybe the greatest race weekend of my entire career.
And if we stop for a second, some of you right now are going, well, Tanner, you've won races in your career. You just ran second. What makes this second place finish, the greatest weekend of your entire racing career to this point?
So as we rolled out of Skagit Speedway, our total prize money for the 3 nights was just over $52,000. Now, a big chunk coming from the second place finish on the finale, along with the lap money, which I believe was somewhere in the range of 47 to 48 grand. And I do want to say, I don't talk about any of this to brag that our team, man, we won all this money. Like, seriously, for me, it probably still hasn't even set in, in just crazy to win that amount of money, but we didn't win the race. But man, we were dang close. And like, it's just hard to wrap your head around, in sprint car racing and like with where things are heading, there's just more money involved at the top, and to run well at these big races can literally change your race team. So for a program like us, and I don't want to say like, man, we're the small local team, but you guys have seen where we've come from, and we've built up in year by year, just trying to do everything right, cross our T's, dot our I's, build our program, have great partnerships, have great relationships in the sport, and allowed us to run at the level and still wanting to climb to be a full-time national team. I mean, the best way to put it in this sport, the most money I'd ever won in one single night was 10 grand. And that was actually at the biggest outlaw kart race. I'd never even, if I can remember, I never even won 10 grand. 10 grand in a sprint car in one night. So then you have a night like we did at the Dirt Cup where we were contending for over $100,000. And so much props from our team and everyone in the sport goes out to Skagit Speedway and their entire staff for having a race where us teams, even the guys all throughout the field, walked out of there with a good chunk of change. And with where sprint car racing is at and how expensive it is to do this in motorsports in general, we need races like that. Like, all races, if they were like the event that the Dirt Cup is out here on the West Coast, it'd make a lot more sense, in this sport to do what we do. But anyway, I don't want to keep going on and on. We have more to talk about in today's show, but really just wanted to hit on how big of a deal it was for our team to, bring home that prize money, and so thankful for everyone involved. It was truly like a dream come true moment for me, a weird dream come true moment because we didn't necessarily win the race. It wasn't like we won a race and won 50 grand. We ran second and brought home that much. So just kind of a mix of emotions, but still, I would say probably the greatest night of my entire racing career to this point. Now here's a look at the hardware. Trophy's just casually taller than me. Of course, the 3rd place on the prelim night on Friday. Here's the bottle of champagne for 2nd place. I'll tell you this champagne was really good. As a team, we were joking, we're like, it's funny, like the nicest trophy we have in our garage is now a 2nd place trophy. One of the nicer ones we had before this was our C main event win at the Knoxville Nationals. The big events in sprint car racing sure know how to provide good hardware to the teams. And if you guys know me, I'm a huge advocate. I don't care what kind of race it is. I mean, maybe weekly shows are different, but anyone that's trying to have an actual event or have a bigger race, you don't necessarily always have to pay out the most money. If you have a trophy that catches eyes, that alone will bring in everyone to your show. A lot of drivers will say, well, a trophy can't buy me groceries at the grocery store or buy new tires or new race cars, and that is true, but I'll tell you, the bragging rights and what it's like to walk into someone's shop and see the hardware, it's, to me, maybe it's just me as a driver, but I think it's like the coolest thing ever. So I've worked with a lot of great people in this sport, but one of the most legendary being Bobby Allen with Shark Racing. And he had a great saying where hindsight is 20/20. And on our bad nights and where there was something maybe we would have done different, like he would just remind us that and say, hey, the past is meant to stay in the past, leave it there, learn from it, but leave it there. And it's a lot easier to make calls and win races once you're, ahead of the actual moment. So as I look back on Dirt Cup, again, I just want to say how great that 40-lap race was. I think as a team, we did a phenomenal job. Now, if you really want to break it down, what exactly would we have done different? And because I'm a race car driver and I critique everything, there's two things I would have done different. The first one being on our open red on lap 16 or 17. When we were out front, I would have had a little better communication with Carly to free up the race car. Our car was just starting to get good as we were running more laps. I think it was getting better and better, but as we dumped all that fuel back in it, I think we lowered the back of the car, and then right away, even though I was in clean air, my race car was definitely snug and tight when I got into the cushion, or just in general, it wasn't rolling around as free as it could be. Now under that open red, and I take responsibility, we talked about this as the team, I didn't have enough tear-offs on for the race, and I know a lot of drivers were in that boat because I seen guys running with tear-offs under the open red. I started with almost 20. When we got in lap traffic, the track just had more grip in areas that we just weren't expecting, and it was kind of a muddy, dirty. And so like I was pulling them pretty quick. And I was down to 3, almost halfway through the race. And again, I'm an honest guy, so that was a distraction. That was a distraction under the open red that we didn't necessarily need. Those guys rushing to get me tear-offs because I didn't, I wasn't prepared and didn't have some in the meal. I hadn't needed any all weekend. And so it was just, I thought I had plenty on and I didn't. So again, Carly and I could have had clearer communication there because she was kind of helping with that. She was also trying to get feel in, and it was just not a lot of time. It was go, 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 and we're trying to rush to get everything done. And ultimately and honestly, I felt pretty good. I just needed a little bit more time to process, hey, what adjustments could we make as we're now dumping all this fuel back in the car to be a little bit better right off the jump of the gun on the green flag. And again, once we got back going, by lap 30, I think my car was good again. At the end of the race, I think Trey and I were very similar in speed, but you saw that he was able to fire off really well. And this is where it leads into the second thing I would have done different is I would have ran the bottom into 1 and 2 on the start, because that would have kind of taken his lane away. And even though my race car was too tight, I think that could have been, I could have overcame that. It would have been better if we would have freed up, but if I would have been able to stay ahead of Trey, it wouldn't have hurt me as much being tight, because I could have I wouldn't have been chasing, he would have been chasing me. And I think if I would have just blocked that lane, he would have kind of been forced to either follow me, or it would have caught him off guard and maybe he would have shot to the middle. I just think I would have been able to gap him then off of 2, where instead, he had that inside lane, he was right off my left rear, slid me, and then that's where my race car showed how tight I was, because I got into the cushion, I got plugged into it too far, and then my left front's just bouncing and it's sticking the right rear, and I just can't get the thing rotated off the corner. He gets, he's underneath me, has the inside lane, takes the spot, and from there the roles are reversed and I'm chasing him, trying to catch him basically for the remaining 24 laps. And that part does sting a little bit, I won't lie, because obviously we all go there to win the race, but ultimately it came down to that restart as the race then went green all the way through, and I had paced him really well the entire time. A couple lap cars, I felt like he was able to get by just a little bit quicker, and how they kind of shook out, they broke my momentum, which hurt me, but ultimately, we weren't far off on speed. He just had made some good adjustments. It sounded like under the open red, looking back now, we're able to see, and his car fired right off, and he just had that little bit extra that, then was able to overtake us and win the race. So yeah, I would have done a few things different, and I think even in races that you win, you would do things differently. That's just our job as race teams, is to look back at the data, what happened during the 40 laps, what could we have done better? How could our car have been better set up? How did the race play out, and how did we adapt throughout it? There's just so much to this game, and the top teams, man, they're good at putting it all together. And realistically, during that race, we did put just about all of it together. Just that little bit more could have been the difference in, us having a $100,000 payday, and instead, walking out of there with almost 50 grand. So, wow, just cool to be in that position though, and I think it shows so much growth for our team. There's just so much to this sport, and the best teams, the top guys that you see, the Kyle Larson, the David Gravel, the Rico Abreu, the Donnie Schatz, they can just put it all together, and that's exactly what we're shooting to do, and that's our goal. And I feel like our Dirt Cup A main event, we had about 95% of it together. Just that little bit more is the difference in where we were at in the top step of the podium. In the end though, walked out of Skagit, very proud of our team. If you look closely, you can still see the trophy still has champagne on it. I don't think I'm gonna clean this thing off. I think I'm just gonna leave it. I think it's a really, really cool memory. And now the last part of the video, and what you guys probably really wanna hear, what's our team gonna do with the money? And my answer is pretty simple, probably a little bit boring, but it's all just going to go back into the team and into our program. You know, how can we use that to get to the level that, you know, we're wanting to get to? And being real with you, I mean, it honestly just helps us get kind of back in the ballpark we were hoping to be in throughout the season. Of course, we started on the wrong foot. We had that crash at Tulare, we had the crash at Douglas County, and then we had the one at Southern Oregon. You know, we had a really weird start to our year, just kind of unexpected, wrong place, wrong time. And after those situations, to kind of have the speed week and then into the dirt cup that we had, that was a big deal for our team. Like I said, just to recoup some of, you know, all of a sudden what was looking like a really rough stretch of races. And then to get a little bit more specific, I would say, you know, I think one of the areas we would like to touch on a little bit is just our engine program. We have a really good engine program that we've been building now over the last few seasons, and we want to continue just to kind of dive into that. And I mean, that's what our jobs are as race teams. Everyone's always trying to get that little bit more horsepower. And all of our 410s built by Ryder Racing Engines out of Pennsylvania, and they do just a phenomenal job. We're really happy with our 410 program. So I think we're gonna continue to look at that area. And for the people watching that probably know me better than just on camera, like, I'm a saver, and I like to pinch pennies and try to cut corners. As you guys know, in this sport, it's easy to run the numbers up very, very quickly. And with the family program and operation, we just try to be, you know, careful and do this all the right way and do it the smart way. So for us, it really just comes down to, you know, where is that money going to be best invested into with our program to, again, continue to reach the levels that we want to. And it might not be right this moment. So again, save it, keep rolling throughout the season. You know, I feel like we got good momentum on our side. We're actually rolling now into the actual sprint car month of money. So we have other big paying shows coming up. Kings Royal, Knoxville Nationals, the West Coast Swing again, up with High Limit. And I can tell you this, after a moment like we just had, it makes you so much hungrier to chase the big paydays that we have in front of us. But that's just a little insight on our team. Again, more than anything, we're gonna save it. We're gonna keep working towards, you know, what we wanna work towards, whether it be a motor program, more equipment, race shop, truck and trailer. Like I said, I mean, in this sport, again, you can run the numbers up quick. So I'm sure it's gonna be well used on the 18T. And I just cannot thank you guys enough for contributing, watching, supporting, liking, you know, everything that we do, because that has helped us get to this point, you know, now where we're really building our program. And to all the people around me and my family, close friends, partners, like, you know, it's just taken everyone to get us to this point, and it feels really, really good to have the 18T rolling with great speed. So now we're back in the shop. We're preparing things for our Midwest tour. That will be coming up in the next set of videos. We're gonna be traveling, we're gonna be racing, and man, like, we got a big schedule ahead of us this chunk of summer. Just a lot of races and not a lot of days. So I'm really excited, and I can't wait to bring you guys along for the journey. We'll see you guys in the next show. Deuces.